Hello and welcome to my newest build video. I've got a project for this spring that's going to be really fun. So this is going to be for a client, a good friend of mine. What she's going to do is she wants me to build her 2 new gaming PCs for people in her family, and then we're going to take their old PCs and we're going to combine the parts from those to build an emulator similar to the one I built in the previous series. So this is going to be a really fun project because we're going to be building a total of 3 computers. So here's how this is going to work. We've got our 2 builds here and we've got our parts. Now, these are not all the parts. We're still waiting on a couple things. We're waiting on some fans and we're waiting on SSDs, but I am going to get started tonight because she's coming down from up north this weekend and I'd like to be ready for her with working computers when she arrives, if at all possible. So I'm going to start tonight. I'm going to be unboxing a few things, doing a few test boots, getting both the motherboards set up. So before I do any of that and dive in, I wanted to capture all the fun stuff with the parts before we begin. So without further ado, let's go into the builds. So we had a combined budget that we had to hit. So we did make some sacrifices, but overall, I think I'm going to be pretty happy with these. The client is providing graphics cards, so that's why you're not going to see any graphics cards here. So she's going to bring those down on Saturday, and those are the graphics cards we're going to use. On the left, you'll see our first build. This is going to be a gaming PC primarily, and you can tell from the case, we have chosen the Thermaltake, the Tower 500. I'm really excited about this case because this is a case with a vertical design. So this is going to be, it's going to be tough to see with the lighting, but the graphics card is actually going to be standing vertical right here. And as you can see, the case has glass on 3 sides, so you have great visibility into all the parts. We've also got a lot of RGB components, as you can see here, so this case should be incredibly gorgeous once it's up and running. Our CPU for this build is going to be the new Intel 13th Gen i5 13600KF, basically the current gaming king. So I felt like that was a no-brainer choice for the CPU. We've got 32 gigs of DDR4, and we opted for black with the RGB tips to match the case. So there's our CPU. I've got 3 more of these fans coming on the way. My initial thought for the airflow in this case, as you can kind of make out in the back there are 2 black fans already installed. That's great. But I'd like our airflow pattern to be straight vertical. So we're actually going to have 2 front intakes here, pulling air into the case. Then the air is going to rise up through there, and we're going to have 2 top exhausts. And both the front intakes and top exhausts are going to be full RGB Arctics like these. I got another 3-pack of these on the way. So this is what type of fan we're going to be using. So we'll have a total of 6 case fans, plus the CPU fan, plus the GPU fans. Should be plenty of airflow for this. I don't think the client's going to be doing a ton of overclocking, so this will be perfect for those, for that needs. All right, moving on. Our motherboard is the Asus TUF Gaming Z790 Plus Wi-Fi D4. Don't mind that. That is my sump pump you're hearing right now. And this motherboard is a favorite of mine. I like Asus a lot. I know their BIOS inside and out. And my current motherboard in my gaming PC is actually this version, just in the 490. The primary reason I chose this motherboard was the quality of the build parts and the longevity. Since the client's not going to be doing a ton of overclocking, I felt like quality was the best thing to shoot for, and that's what the Asus TUF line is all about. So that's why I chose that motherboard. The other thing about this motherboard is it's got a lot of good features and nothing super crazy. It also matches the case really well. So big fan of Asus motherboards. All right, what else? We've got our power supply down here, Corsair 850. The GPU that's going in this PC is going to be a 3080 that the client is already procured elsewhere. So when she brings that down, we're going to be putting a 3080 in this. So that's why I went with an 850 watt. And our CPU cooler is the always popular, the Hyper 212 RGB Black Edition. I've installed this a couple times now, and I'm a big fan of this cooler. This cooler used to have a really crappy black backplate attachment design. They've since improved it quite a bit, so it's a lot easier to install now, and it's always been a really good value for the money. So that is build number 1. Build number 2 is somebody else that lives in the client's house wants a gaming PC, and they were more concerned about compactness. So what we decided to do was an ITX build in this Fractal Torrent Nano case. This case is so cool. It is really small, but does not really have any compromises. You can put a full-size graphics card in it, you can put a full-size cooler in it, and it's still not that big. You can put a full-size power supply in it. It's got all the connectivity you'd want, and my favorite part is the airflow. Look at this fan in here. Sorry, it's tough to do this one-handed. That is a 180 millimeter fan. Pretty wild. I'm excited about that. So we definitely don't need any intake fans. All we need is one exhaust fan. So I just got one white exhaust fan to go back here, and that's coming tomorrow, I believe, in the mail. So that's all we're going to need for airflow for this. For the CPU on this machine, we're going with a little lower power, lower budget. So we went with the i5 again, 13th gen again, but this is the 65 watt 13400F. Still incredibly powerful. You get 10 cores, but it was only $200. Like, what a crazy value for a CPU. Thought this was a great buy. This one actually just came out, and I read the reviews for it, and they were very promising. The other thing, as you can tell, we're going with a white build. So I got white everything. We've got white RAM, 16 gigs DDR4 RGB. We've got a silver motherboard. I couldn't get a white motherboard, but we got a silver one. This MSI 760. No compromises there still. We're still going to get PCI E 4.0 on the SSD. We're still going to get Wi-Fi 6, but in a much smaller form factor and pretty good price range. Plus MSI is a pretty good brand for motherboards, I believe. Then we got a white RM750 power supply. I did check, and this is a bit longer power supply, but it is not too long to go in here. This maximum length for the power supply in this case is about 200 millimeters. This is 160, so we're totally good there. Obviously, you won't see the power supply in here when it's on, but it's going to have white cables, and that's kind of cool, and that's something that the client and I are pretty excited about, is seeing the white RAM, the white cables. Also, the white T120 RGB CPU cooler we got from NZXT. So also, both of these PCs are going to have 2 terabyte NVMe SSDs. Like I said, those are coming in the mail, and we got a couple fans still coming. And in this one, I believe we're putting a client's pre-owned GTX 1070. So the reason we went with the 750 watt power supply is because I want the client to be able to just drop a new graphics card in here whenever they feel like upgrading. So once the client has decided they want to upgrade, I want them to be able to not have to worry about power. I want them to have to worry about anything else. I'll have the cables ready to go. All they'll have to do is unscrew the bracket for the GPU and drop a new card in, and it'll be ready to upgrade. So yeah, overall, tonight, I think the plan will be just to do test boots. We're going to put the motherboards together for both systems. But then, like I said, we'll probably start building in earnest tomorrow night once the fans and the SSDs get here. And then we'll go from there. Like I said, we're trying to get this stuff ready by Saturday. So stay tuned for future updates on the channel. I will update this build as I go.